surrender seems to be a part of our being nonetheless. And one of the ways that frequently we learn how to surrender is when we get life puts us in a position where that's our only option. And we can choose to surrender, let go, or not. It's one of the other real benefits of doing a mindfulness meditation, is because the actual practice of the mindfulness meditation helps with a number of things, but one of the most important things is letting go. Because each time a thought comes up and we recognize it and we release it, that's letting go. And we're not used to doing that. We're used to worrying about things and wrestling with it and thinking about this and how can I do that and what if this happens, and all of that just seeks to just gets us all twisted up, and we get all upset, and or we think we've got it all handled, we've got it all worked out, and then we get to the place where we have to do something and it doesn't go anywhere near the way we thought it would go. So all that time of preparation was wasted. So what does that really mean? It means that the only really useful place in life is the present moment. We won't really know until we get there. I had a meeting recently and I had all kinds of thoughts about what this meeting could be like, and go this way and go that way. And I just thought, like, I'm just going to show up and be present and feed the moment, so to speak, was kind of what I was thinking. Just feed the moment when I'm there. And it turned out amazingly well, just far beyond my expectations. So surrender is a very important part of our toolkit. For me, this is an ongoing theme, because if we realize that there's no sort of, in this life, in the human life, there's no really getting to a point where everything is going to be okay from that point forward. Human life just doesn't work that way. So it's this cyclical up and down, and easy and difficult, and pleasant and painful, and it just goes on. So then, how can one possibly live a fruitful or beneficial life with all that stuff going on? Why can't we just figure it all out and do the right thing and then be happy ever after? Well, we have Disney to help us making that mistake. It doesn't work like that. So if we're going to live to good purpose, and find meaning and purpose, and I'll be talking about that a bit today. If we find really interested in finding meaning and purpose in life, then we have to take a different tack, which is very simply, how do we not resist the difficulties, and how do we not try to hang on to what seems to be good and pleasant? What happens when everything we're doing falls apart? What do we do when something that we work really hard to achieve and find it occur with great satisfaction, and then within a short period of time it's taken away? How do we deal with that? How do we deal with things where there's someone really dear to us is in a very difficult situation, or we're in a very difficult situation? How do we approach that and live successfully through it? To me, that really is one of the most important questions of this human condition. And so the part of it is letting go, and when we do, and we apply wisdom and compassion, mindfulness and compassion to the process, we begin to find a new kind of understanding, like we were talking about a moment ago, is that all of us, if we could, buy something and we could automatically thereafter be able to let go, then, that'd be easy. But we don't let go so easily. And a lot of times we're holding on to stuff that we don't even realize we're holding on to. And so life gives us these circumstances where it's like this straitjacket and say, hey, no, this is what you need to do. Surrender here. I don't want to surrender. I don't want that. I want this. I want that. Sometimes life holds us in that place where that's our only option. And when we do, things really change. And particularly we begin to find a meaning in the difficult times. I've mentioned Viktor Frankl on a number of occasions, and his main thesis and contribution to psychology was the concept of meaning and how important that is in the human experience, that we have meaning in our lives. And he constructed a form of therapy called logos therapy around that, and the word logos has a vast meaning to it, both in secular and religious terms. But it's oftentimes the first response of somebody when something really tragic and unexpected happens in someone's life, they don't know what it means. Why did this happen? How did this happen? Could I have prevented this from happening? What do I do now? There's this feeling of lostness because we're just challenged to our core by stuff that happens sometimes. And so it's the absence of meaning that's the real problem in that moment. So where do we find the meaning? Well, sorry to say, it's in the pain. But it's how we approach the pain. Have you ever noticed that when we're struggling with something, the pain gets worse? And that we surrender, it gets better? Paradoxically, that seems to be the way it is. And so then we begin to find meaning in things. Like if we've had a long-standing resentment towards somebody, or we've had a very difficult situation, we're very upset about and have been for a while. As soon as we begin to loosen up and better accept things as they are, to the equanimity of mindfulness, just to the point where we can one of the really great aspects of mindfulness and a mindfulness meditation is that we can, for the moment that we're sitting, we can relinquish all sense of having to do anything about the situation. It helps us to learn how to let go, whatever. Because when we're in a state of present moment awareness, the past and the future are in the background. They're not in our face the way they usually are when we're thinking about things. So they really help us to say, okay, well, this feels pretty good. And so when we come to a point, typically when, we just don't know what's going on, but kind of get an idea we need to go this way, what about this? Or a friend shows up and says, have you thought about this? Or do you need counseling? Or some friend shows up and says, the same thing happened to me, and this is how I worked with it, and this is what I found. And then we begin to follow these steps in a little bit different direction. And after a while, we begin to figure out why we begin to find out the meaning in the difficulties. Because in meeting those difficulties, we had to develop in a particular way. We had to grow in a certain way because we didn't have the skills to deal with it when it occurred. So dealing with whatever it is, that's where we grow. And so things come into our lives really to to help us grow. And I'm not, that doesn't diminish at all how painful it is. And it doesn't diminish if we've created the problems ourselves sometimes. Take a look back and realize, well, I kind of put my foot in that one. Yep. And but dealing with it with equanimity, meaning this acceptance, okay, that just the situation as it is, then we can really begin to work with it and we begin to learn from it. So the sign that we're beginning to overcome the difficulty is when the meaning begins to come out of the situation. We begin to sense the meaning of what has happened to us. And so that's a sign that we're really learning and growing. And but sometimes it takes a long time to get there. It's not easy to do. So and anyway, for those that weren't on in the previous session, Circles of Practice, yesterday I was at a restaurant with a friend as the shooting in Allen, Texas was happening, and as it turned out, her daughter was there at the mall. She was safe. She was in the place where she worked, and that was all locked down. But she was close enough she could hear everything. 19 years old. So I guess in reflecting on that a bit, sometimes I need something really close at hand to be able to get out of the theoretical and the research mind that I so enjoy into the real visceral connection to the events, which is very difficult sometimes. But it reminds me that during the Vietnam War, there was a lot of controversy about whether the war was valid or not valid. But what turned the tide of public opinion was one photograph. And that one photograph was so, I guess you could call it heart-rending. And somehow it brought the message of, this is the reality of what's going on over here, folks. And that really turned the tide in terms of public opinion. So sometimes, but how can we, but if all we're doing is feeling everything, then we begin to sink into our own difficulties. So all of this really requires balance. And so that's why I mentioned meaning and purpose earlier. And thinking about meaning and purpose to me is a central practice for us human beings, because what it really translates as is wisdom and compassion, meaning and purpose. Because if we recall, for the definition of compassion, it's like it has the unique component of a desire to, and an activation and an active engagement in making something better and providing compassion. And it's compassion gets us into action in one way or another. It could be in prayer, it could be with a spiritual practice, but it could be going out and starting a new nonprofit, or it could be making amends to a family member. I mean, it could be whatever it is, but the act of compassion is out and actually doing something. So I think of meaning and compassion as the two elements of a balanced life. On the one hand, we have the wisdom and the compassion, the equanimity to be able to be present with things, and then we also have the compassion to say, okay, we need to do something about this. If I'm having financial troubles, maybe I need to get a different job. Maybe I think about it, maybe a different career. Maybe I could just do something on the side. Well, who can I help? And we begin to, and things start to come out of those questions. So that's why I selected the the body scan today. We did the body scan last week, the mindfulness body scan. So today we're going to do the compassionate body scan. And for those that were here last week, to get a sense of what the difference really is between the two. And because on the one, we talked about interoception last week and how important that inner vision really is for our well-being. And so this is that plus a feeling of compassion and warmth and caring and connection. Christina said she and her husband and 2 daughters were in a lockdown in the vicinity of the active shooter in Atlanta. Yeah, and that the meditations and the practice help stay centered. Yep. Yes. And Devika shared, this is a perfect moment. It's very helpful. It's a great thought. Okay, so as I've said on a number of occasions, all these practices are really helping us to learn how to be okay when things are not okay. So, positions, everyone. And finding a comfortable spot. A place in this world at this moment where you are and can just be. And sinking into silence. Allowing ourselves to turn off the radio of the world and the worldly concerns. Unplugging whatever it is we need to unplug. And turning off whatever we need to turn off, and letting go of whatever we need to let go of. Allowing ourselves just to be for a moment. Just to rest in this present moment as we are. With whatever is going on in our lives. We bring it all with us and let it be. So that we can find and rest in what's called this present moment. When our mind wanders off to worldly concerns, just recognizing that and releasing it and returning. Allowing ourselves just to be here for a little while. Allowing to accept ourselves and the world and this present moment just as it is at the moment. Being here, being present for it all. And settling into this and letting go, if best you can, of any resistance. Taking our place, our presence amidst the hustle and bustle of the world, this place of stillness. And as thoughts arise, simply letting them float on through. And now there are valid concerns for things in the world, but letting them go for the time being. We'll get back to them soon enough. And settling into this present moment space. And each time the mind wanders, simply releasing, recognizing, releasing, and returning. And then beginning the body scan. Bringing to mind, bringing your awareness to your left foot, to the big toe. And considering that both the meditation, the mindfulness, and this body scan are an act of compassion. providing ourselves with something that sometimes only we can provide for ourselves. Expressing appreciation and caring, perhaps even a sense of wonder. As we become aware of and turn our awareness to this physical body that we have. That provides us a location in this life, an embodiment of us in our worldly comings and goings. And so with the left toe, big toe, approaching perhaps with a sense of curiosity. What do we really need to know about the big toe? What's there? Is there any discomfort? Is it asking for compassion? Or just appreciation? It lifts us off the ground every time we take a step. And yet right now it doesn't look like it's doing much of anything. It's just being also. But performs well when needed. And extending our awareness to the other toes on the left foot. Where we find the same thing. Without these toes, life would be a lot more difficult and a lot less fun. And extending our awareness from the toes into the foot itself, the top of the foot and the sole of the foot. Perhaps seeing it as if you're seeing it for the very first time. And perhaps curiosity about how all that seems to work. How amazing it is as a toddler is learning to walk. How the feet move. And we've taken quite a few steps in this life up to this point by virtue of our feet. Provides us a standing in the world. And even though there may be pain, or may not work so well at times, this goes for any part of the body, it's still pretty miraculous. And extending our awareness up into the ankle of the foot, the heel and the ankle. Even more complex is the ankle. And thinking with all this bones and connective tissue and muscles, how it allows us to walk and to stand and to dance. And bringing our awareness further up into the lower leg, the calf and the shin bone. As if perhaps seeing it for the first time. And in a very real sense we are, because even though the differences are minuscule, this is not the same lower leg that we had yet. It's not yesterday's lower leg. It's the lower leg right now, which is different than yesterday's, a little bit. More blood has flown through, there's been more muscle activity, been more places. In a real sense, we've never been aware of this particular leg ever before. And extending up into the knee. And even if there's difficulties there, if there's pain, seeing if we can just let it be for the moment. And if there is pain, bringing a little kindness in, a little compassion in. And letting that warmth and caring settle into the joint. And again, extending our awareness all the way from the toes, foot, low ankle, heel, lower leg, knee, up into the upper leg, the thigh, the muscles, the weight, providing the real power of walking. Which does most of the hard work. And again, extending the awareness up into the hips. Both the right and left sides, the whole region of the hips. often a problematic area. Simply accepting it as it is, whatever may be, and flooding it with compassion. For in the end, we're just human. And this is the human experience. And allowing that warmth and caring and wisdom settle in. Letting it soak in to the hips. And for now, as best you can, letting it simply be okay, present as it is. And bringing our awareness to the big toe on the right foot. How it seems identical to the big toe on the left foot, except it's different. And how come there's a right and left anyway? We have these mirror image big toes. And noticing if there's any complaints there. Or it's okay with just being. And allowing yourself a bit of wonder. How did this all happen that we have big toes? And bringing our awareness to the other toes, the rest of the toes on the right foot. The same awareness we applied to the left is here in the right foot. And realizing how seemingly innocuous the toes are, but what a vital role they play in our overall being. Even though most of the time we don't think so. And extending awareness from the toes up into the foot, down into the sole of the foot and the top of the foot, all those tiny bones and fascia and muscles that seems to all work together like a little symphony every time we walk. And extending our awareness to the heel and the ankle. Even more miraculous. And perhaps providing a sense of appreciation. Sorry about that, folks. Wasn't my fault. So bringing the awareness up into the ankle and the heel. And extending up into the calf, the muscles of the calf on the back and the shin bone in front. So our awareness all the way from the big toe and the little toes and through the foot, the sole and the top of the foot, the heel and the ankle, up into the calf, the lower leg. Perhaps getting a sense of its construction, that it's hard and vulnerable on the front and soft and muscular on the back. And somehow that seems to work just fine. And extending up into the knee. The joint, the back and the front of the joint. And again, if there's any discomfort or pain, if you can, simply letting it be as it is. And continue to appreciate it as it is. Affording us a unique level of mobility. And extending again the awareness up into the thigh. And large, heavy muscle propelling us through life. Connecting with the awareness in the hips. And bringing that awareness from the hips up into the abdomen. All the activity of digestion is the liver and the kidneys, the lungs, spleen, appendix, the large and small colon, just keeping us alive every split second of every moment, doing its job. And bringing the warmth of wonder and caring to this operation, this little biofactory going on here. And as best you can, suffusing the area with the warmth of light and compassion, the essence of awareness. And also noticing the back as well, the spine coming up from the hips and the buttocks, sort of the dark side of the moon. But yet it allows us to stand and to walk, to bend down and pick things up, lean from side to side. And allowing our awareness to continue to extend all the way up into our upper chest and up to the top of the spine in the back as well at the same time. And as best we can, bringing a sense of caring and wonder. And bringing our awareness now to the thumb on the right hand and the left hand. How similar it is in many ways to the big toe on the right and left foot. And each of the other 4 fingers on each hand. That allows us to do so much, to experience the world in unique ways, and to bring meaning into our lives and the lives of those around us. And extending that awareness into the palm. And how important the palms are. And all the bones in the knuckles and the back of the hand. And how when we're caring about somebody or welcoming them, it's palms up. And we want someone to stop, we put up our palms saying, stop. Or we wave people on to greet them. And bring our awareness from the hands into the wrist, which is very much like the ankle, similar function. And up into the lower arms, simultaneously, both right and left, that allow us to move our hands about. And the elbows, and the upper arm, and now the whole arm with all its many parts seems a single unit, allowing us to be able to do many, many things. From giving someone a hug, to throwing a baseball, to dancing, preparing food, a multitude of things we do in the world. And bringing the awareness up into the neck from both sides. And that's where our throat is, and also the esophagus. It's how the food gets from our chewing it up into the tummy, and how the air, breath by breath, enters and leaves the lungs. That's where our voice is. Getting a sense of the outside and the inside of the lungs, of the throat. Allows us to talk and to sing. And to sustain ourselves with food. And the life-giving breath, moment by moment. And up into the jaw. And allowing our awareness to come up further into the face, into our cheeks. And into the cheekbones and the nose. And the lips. The lips where we eat and talk and kiss and chew, or allows us to give somebody a raspberry if we need to. To make vowel sounds. Very sensitive. And continuing to extend the awareness up through the mouth, complex area, chewing and talking. And up from the cheekbones into the eyes and the eye sockets. And the eye is a miraculous organ. We perhaps learn more from the eyes than any other sense. And we can appreciate all the wondrous things around us as well as the dangers. We have reading and beauty. Helps us to see the night sky. And our loved ones approaching. And continuing to bring our awareness up to the eyebrows, into the forehead, into the whole skull. And noticing the hair growing out of the skull. And getting some idea about bringing our awareness into what's inside the skull, whatever we may see there. Phenomenally complex place, but it gives us the gift of life and awareness. As does our hearing and our ears. Helping us hear sound and danger and music and thunder and lightning and rain. And now getting a sense of the awareness as it is in your whole body, filling up every part of the body, even the tiniest little spaces. And somehow it all works together. Giving us our ability to be human and to experience life however it is that we experience life, and the opportunity to grow into greater meaning and purpose if we choose. And coming to rest in the completion of this exercise, this meditation, and returning to the present moment awareness as we let the awareness that we've just imbued every part of our body with settle in, absorb the feelings, the complexities, the freedoms and the limitations it provides. The joys and the sadness. Doing its very best to whatever capacity it has. Allowing this caring and sense of wonder to settle in, allowing the body to absorb this, savoring it, so that in a moment when the bell rings again, you can bring this with you as you go about your day and come back to it at any time.